Nobody expected Nico Hulkenberg to shake things up like this. After Silverstone, his name isn't just being mentioned, it's being debated. And not because he made a surprise return, or because of a one-off result. No, this time it's serious. People are actually wondering, should Nico be the one racing alongside Max Verstappen? The idea might sound strange at first, but look closer at what's been happening. Red Bull once had the chance to bring Nico on board back in 2020 but passed on it. Helmut Marko recently revisited that decision. And now, with the way things are going, many are questioning whether the Austrian team might circle back before 2026. Let's put this into perspective. After the last couple of races, there's an unexpected twist. Sauber, a team no one expected to challenge the big boys, actually outscored Red Bull across 5 races. Yes, you heard that right. From Spain onward, Hulkenberg gathered 31 points, while Verstappen had 29. That stat alone is causing raised eyebrows across the paddock. It's not just the numbers, it's the timing. Red Bull seems to be slipping, while Sauber, under Jonathan Wheatley's guidance, is gaining momentum. With Audi entering the picture in 2026, they might just be getting started. Nico's story is far from ordinary. After stepping away from the sport in 2019, he kept himself sharp as a reserve, filling in for drivers like Vettel when needed. Then, out of nowhere, he makes a comeback in 2022 and immediately proves he still belongs in Formula One. Since joining Sauber, his presence has helped push the team back into midfield contention and maybe even a fight for P5 against Williams. The real question? Should Red Bull reconsider Nico as their second man, or has that window permanently closed? Many believe Red Bull missed the boat in 2020. Back then, Hulkenberg was firmly on their radar when Alex Albon was on his way out. But just as decisions were about to be made, Sergio Perez won that race in Bahrain, one of the most wins in recent memory. That single performance changed everything. It gave Red Bull a reason to go with Perez instead, and Nico was left without the shot he might have deserved. Fast forward to now, and that decision is aging poorly. Helmut Marko recently admitted that Nico has done a remarkable job since rejoining Formula One. In his own words, maybe it was for the best that he didn't get that seat beside Max. But in hindsight, one could argue otherwise. At the moment, Nico has a long-term deal with Audi, and that alone makes any potential switch complicated. Why would he give up a lead role on a manufacturer-backed project just to be a backup to Verstappen? He's not exactly a rookie looking for a break. He's proven, experienced, and valuable to a team like Audi that's building from the ground up. And even though Perez has secured 5 wins with Red Bull, his form has dipped sharply. His early performances, especially in 2021, helped Verstappen clinch his first title. Remember his role in races like Turkey or Abu Dhabi, where he earned the tag of being the Minister of Defense. Those were crucial moments. But it didn't. After that season, the fall was sudden. Whether it's his driving or the way the team's supporting him, that's up for debate. But one thing is clear, Red Bull hasn't seriously tested anyone else in that seat since, and that might be one of their biggest mistakes. For a while, nobody questioned the second seat at Red Bull. Verstappen was winning comfortably, often crossing the line with over a 20-second lead. He didn't need support. He was practically carrying the entire team to victory on his own. But that's no longer the case. The gap is closed. And now, Red Bull finds itself stuck in 4th place in the standings, with a car that isn't giving the same dominance it once did. Suddenly, that second seat matters a lot. And this is where Nico Hulkenberg's name returns to the conversation. Because while others have struggled, Nico has stayed consistent. He's the kind of driver who can bring in points even when the car isn't perfect. Think of how Bottas supported Hamilton at Mercedes. Bottas wasn't flashy, but he was dependable. He knew how to extract results, and he rarely failed to make it into Q3. For 5 seasons, he played his role to near perfection and picked up 10 wins while doing so. Right now, Red Bull needs someone like that. Yuki Tsunoda's performance in Silverstone only made things worse, finishing at the back of the grid and picking up a penalty for a clumsy collision with Ollie Behrman, and that wasn't a one-off. Red Bull has only gathered 8 points this season from drivers other than Max. That's a troubling sign. If Verstappen isn't winning, the team doesn't score. That's not a sustainable formula, especially with rumors floating around that Max could be eyeing a move to Mercedes in the near future. If those rumors about Max walking away from Red Bull do come true, the team could face a serious crisis. That starts in 2026, when the new technical regulations shake up the entire field. And if that happens, having a solid EXPERIENCED driver in the team becomes more than just a backup plan, it becomes survival. That's where Nico Hulkenberg's value becomes clear. He's not just quick, he brings maturity, experience, and calm under pressure, and Audi knew exactly what they were doing when they locked him in with a long-term deal. They needed someone to lead their new project, ideally someone German, and Nico fit the bill perfectly. They even approached Sebastian Vettel to see if he'd be interested in coming back. But Hulkenberg was always a more realistic option now. Red Bull would be trying to chase someone who already has a defined role. And unlike in 2020, there are teams out there offering drivers a proper leadership position. Nico would rather be the top pick at Audi than play second fiddle too. Max in a team where his future would constantly be in question. If you asked this same question 5 years ago, things would have looked different, but times have changed. Red Bull isn't at the top anymore, and Nico's stock has only risen. His recent performances speak for themselves. He's helped teams rise from the midfield and is now doing it again at Sauber, under the guidance of former Red Bull sporting director Jonathan Wheatley. And the more Max publicly complains about the balance issues in the RB21, the more Red Bull's problems are out in the open for everyone to see. During a recent race weekend, Verstappen didn't hold back about the RB21's flaws. His frustration was clear as he explained just how uncomfortable the car felt from the very first lap. He spoke about the strange imbalance between high-speed and low-speed corners, something that made the entire race a struggle, even when running. On intermediate tires, the car just didn't hold up, especially when compared to McLaren, who seemed to be in a completely different class. That kind of performance gap is a warning sign. Red Bull can no longer rely on Max to make up for technical shortcomings. They need another driver who can handle pressure, adapt quickly, and bring home results. Someone like Hulkenberg. He's proven that he can step into tricky situations and deliver. And with the next era of Formula One around the corner, that kind of stability will be priceless. Right now, Red Bull seems hesitant to throw another young driver into the fire. They've seen how quickly a promising talent can fade under the shadow of Verstappen. That's why team officials, like Peter Bayer at Racing Bulls, are openly saying they'd do anything to keep their drivers out of Red Bull's reach, even joking about handcuffing them until 2026. Because the truth is, no matter how strong a young driver looks on paper, putting them in that second Red Bull seat has been a risky move, and so far, it hasn't worked out. With a car that's no longer miles ahead of the rest, Red Bull is starting to feel the pressure. And if they're serious about staying in the title fight beyond 2025, they might have to admit something difficult. It's time to stop experimenting and start thinking long-term. Carlos Sainz, who shared the garage with Nico in the past, offered a rare bit of praise that cut through the noise. He said that for him, the lack of podiums in Nico's career was never about talent, it was all about circumstance. And now that Nico finally stepped onto the podium in Silverstone, it's a moment that silences critics who doubted him for years. Sainz stood by his former teammate, saying he always knew the potential was there. It just needed the right timing and, maybe, the right car. But here's the bigger question that still lingers in the background. Would Nico actually accept a move to Red Bull now? That path is complicated. Jonathan Wheatley, a man who once shaped Red Bull's on-track strategies, is now leading Sauber's transformation. Nico is right at the center of that plan. Walking away from that leadership role, where he's respected and relied upon, wouldn't be easy, especially not to become a backup in a team where Verstappen's dominance defines everything. At this stage of his career, Nico might value leading Audi's charge into a new era over chasing a secondary spot in a fading powerhouse. Yet, Formula One is unpredictable. Red Bull could find themselves needing a steady, experienced driver sooner than expected if Max leaves, and in that case, all cards might be back on the table. For now, it's clear that the decision Red Bull made back in 2020 is one they might be quietly regretting. Missing out on Hulkenberg then may not have seemed like a big deal, but looking at the current situation, his form, Red Bull's decline, and the chaos of the second seat, it might just be one of those decisions that haunts them down the line. What's your take? Did Red Bull miss their golden chance with Nico? And if they get another shot in 2026, would it even be the right move anymore?